Hey there everyone, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this really sweet little rainbow. So it's a stuffed rainbow, so it's nice and squishy, and obviously you can do whatever you want with them. We're just going to pop them around the house, and I think my daughter's going to hang a couple up in her bedroom window to go along with her pictures. People seem to be putting lots of rainbows everywhere at the moment for children to spot when they're out on their walks. So I just thought this would be a good time to show you how to make one of these. So you're obviously going to need a few things. You're going to need whatever you're planning to use for your stuffing. I just used some polyester stuffing which I got from Hobbycraft yonks ago, and then obviously whatever colours you want to use for your rainbow. I'm going to be using 5 colours, but obviously you can use whatever colours you want. I've done a really bright one, and then I've done one pastel-y like this. And if you want to add eyes, then you will just need some safety eyes like I've got here. These were just a really cheap pack from Amazon. But yeah, obviously you don't have to put a face on, that is totally up to you. So we're just going to crack straight on. So I've got my 5 shades here, but obviously you can use whatever shades you want. These are just odds and ends that I had lying around. They're a mix of Paintbox and Colour Crafter and all kinds of different ones, so you can just use whatever yarn you choose. Now, just so you know, I am literally going to be doing it as I have made this one. If you want to make it bigger or anything, then obviously you can do, but you'll just have to do that by yourself. I am literally going to show you how to make this exact rainbow. But the final round is slightly different to the others to make sure that your rainbow sits flat and doesn't curve up that way, because that's not what you'd want. You want it to sit nice and flat and straight. So I'm going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I apologise for any banging and things that you can hear, but next door has decided that they're going to do a bit of DIY today, so I apologise for that. So this chain now, we're going to work back into that very first chain right at the bottom, and we're going to be doing trebles. So yarn over and insert into that very first chain, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So obviously these are UK trebles. In the US these are your double crochets, and you're going to work a round of trebles, and you want 12 trebles at the end. Those few chains from the beginning will count as your first one. We've just done the second, and you want 12 overall. So it's 3, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 2 more, 11, and final one is 12. So just take a moment to double check that you do have 12, and once you do, you want to work into the top of the chain that we started with at the beginning. So you'll be able to see a V here, which is the top of the first proper treble that we did there, but you want to work into the stitch just next to it. So that chain stitch, you'll slip stitch, so yarn over and pull through both loops. We're going to change colour, so chain 1 and snip off and pull your hook through and tighten that up. So that is your first round. Now in a little bit we're going to weave this tail around so that we can pull that hole closed a little bit, but right now I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm going to move on to my next colour. Okay, so again we're going to start with, slip knot, because I like to start with standing stitches So we're going to do another round of trebles now. So you're going to yarn over your hook and just hold with your finger, and then pick up your work, and you can attach through the top of any V, so any stitch on the way around. Yarn over and pull up, and then complete your treble as normal. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is your first standing treble, or standing double if you're in the US, and we're going to work 2 trebles into every single stitch. So we've done 1, so you're going to yarn over, go back into that same stitch, and always make sure that you're going through the whole of the stitch by getting the V on the top. And so that's 2 trebles, and 2 trebles into the next stitch. So at the end of this round you'll have 24 stitches, because we're literally just doubling what we had in the last one. So I'm just going to stick with you until I get to the stitch where we slip stitched at the end of the last round, just because some people can get a little bit mixed up there and end up adding in too many stitches. Okay, so you can see I'm at the final stitch from the last round, which is this treble here, and you can see I've got that V just before the chain that we did. So we're going to do 2 stitches into that stitch. One and 2, and then the next stitch, you can see you look like you've got a stitch there after that slip knot, after the chain that we did. It looks like we've got a stitch, but that is not a stitch. You can see that that is just part of the treble that we've worked into, and so the top of the next stitch is here. So you're going to miss that funny little gap and work your next 2 stitches in that next stitch along. So 1 and 2, and you can carry on doing that now until you've completed the round, so you'll have 24 stitches. So I'm working my final stitch now, and I always think it doesn't matter how many circles you've made, it is always a good point to just take a second and check you've got your 24, and then slip stitch to the top of that standing treble from the beginning of the round, chain 1 and snip, pull that out and tighten up. So there is your next round, and again grab your next colour and start with a standing treble again. So I mean, you can absolutely weave in these ends as you go along if you want to, whereas I won't be weaving them in at all. I'll actually just leave them loose and use as part of my stuffing. So again, yarn over, hold with your finger, choose a stitch to start in. I tend to start them all around the same sort of side, so that when we fold later on, all of the joins are up one side rather than all over the show. So any stitch, insert, yarn over and pull up, and again yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So this time we're going to be doing an increase, which will consist of 2 trebles in the same stitch, followed by a single treble into the next stitch. So I'm going to do 1, obviously here, and then in the next stitch here I'm going to increase, so I'm going to do 2 trebles. So 1 and 2. In the next stitch, just 1 treble. In the following stitch, increase for 2 trebles. 1 and 2. Next stitch, 1 treble, increase in the next. You're going to work that all the way around. Oops. And you should finish with an increase, so 2 trebles in your final stitch, and I will meet you round there in just a second. pretty much back round now. I'm doing my 1 treble, and then you can see my final stitch here. I will be doing my increase, so my 2 trebles into the same stitch, and then close off with a slip stitch to the start of the round. Chain 1 and snippety snip and pull that out. Don't worry if it does curve up on you a little bit, it's not a problem at this point, it really doesn't matter. So this next round again we'll be working our increases. So we're nearly done now, only one more after this one. So again, yarn over and hold with your finger and go into the top of one of your stitches where you've done an increase, so one of the trebles where you've got 2 together in the same one, and yarn over and pull up and complete your standing treble. So this time we're going to do going to go treble, treble, increase. So last time it was 1 treble and then an increase, this time it's going to be 2 trebles and then an increase. So that's our first one. 1 treble into the next stitch, and then an increase in the next, so 2 into that next stitch, and then again you'll go 1 treble, increase. So 1 treble, 1 treble in the next, and then increase. 1, and you'll continue that all the way round. So treble, treble, increase, which is 2 in the same stitch, and continue that now, and you will finish again on an increase in your final stitch. So pretty much back round now. I've got 3 stitches left, so I've got my treble, treble, and then my final increase in that last stitch. So 2 trebles, and then again slip stitch to close. Chain 1. So now for our final round. It's a little bit different because obviously normally if you were doing a perfectly flat circle you would do a section of trebles into each stitch and then an increase, but we're actually going to go backwards a few steps here. So I'm going to join on again, and it doesn't matter where you join at this point, you can just join wherever you fancy. We're going to do our standing treble, and this time, because I found when I made one, which I haven't actually got here, but I made one where I just did a normal increase round and it actually pulled the side up like this, and I didn't want that, I wanted it to sit flat, so we're going to have extra stitches in this round. So we're going to do a treble and then increase in the next, so 2 trebles in this one, and then 1 treble in the next, and increase in the next. So we're just going to alternate between an increase and a treble on its own, and you're going to do that all the way round. So treble on its own, increase in the next. So we will have more stitches than we would normally need if we were just doing a flat circle. You might find that it ripples very slightly as you go around, but don't worry, that is absolutely fine. So if you continue that around, and I will meet you back at the other end in just a second, and we will start adding all our detail. Okay, so I've finished with my final increase, and we're going to slip stitch one last time to close the round. this point I'm just going to chain one and just stop there just for a second. Pull yourself quite a big loop or pop a stitch marker in, and do not snip off this time because we obviously need to keep our yarn attached to stitch this all together. So at this point I'm just going to go back to that very first tail, like I mentioned at the beginning, and I'm just going to weave this tail around just so that I can close up that hole a little bit more. So I'm just going to weave it around. Like so, and then I can pull on it to close it up a little bit. So that is how we should be looking at this point. Now obviously where we are joined currently is where we're going to start joining, so that is where your fold is going to be. So you've got your loop at one edge, and at this point now we're going to add in our eyes if you're doing that. So I've got my little safety eyes, and on this one I popped them just at the edge of my green row, at the edge of my third row. So whatever colours you've done, it'll be on the top of your third row, just in between your changes. So as I say, fold it so that you know where your join is going to be, so that you can place the eyes accordingly. I'm just going to tuck all these ends in a little bit out of the way, except the one that we're still using, obviously. So as I say, these eyes are obviously completely optional, so I'm going in between my green and my yellow. I know where my fold is going to be, so I'm just going to roughly place them for now. So I'm going to have 3 trebles in between, and then I'm going to go through the tops of the trebles either side. So I've gone through the top of that treble, 1, 2, 3, and then the top of that treble. I do apologise for that noise, I'm very sorry, but they're doing woodwork or something. So I'm happy with my eye placement there, so I'm going to just turn that over and pop my backs on those safety eyes. It's always the way, isn't it? I've not filmed for a few days, and then as soon as you want to film, someone's out doing DIY. So there we go. So I'm happy with my eye placement there now. That is job done. I'm going to add in a little mouth. Now I haven't actually got any black, so I'm just using the darkest colour that I had around. So I've snipped off a piece, probably about 6 inches or so, and then really simply I'm just going to come through the back of my work. So you can see on my second colour I've just gone from near the top of a stitch down, and then from the top of one treble in between, and then I've gone down from the next one. So I'm going to go about here, I'm going to pull that through, and I'm going to leave a couple of inches on the back, and then I'm going to go down this treble here. So you can see there I've gone down the treble and I'm going into the bottom of that stitch, pull that down, and then I'm going to come up through the next one and back down again to that treble. Okay, so I've got my sweet little smile on there now. I'm going to turn this over and I'm just going to knot this off. So I'm just going to go underneath part of a stitch at the back, pull that through, but catch the loop and pull it through, and then I'm just going to weave it under a couple of stitches. This is the only one I'm going to weave in because the others are already quite secure. And then with the other end from the smile I'm going to do the exact same thing. So I'm literally just going to make a small knot. Again, catching the loop to create a little knot, and then just weave under a couple of stitches just to pull that a bit tighter. So now it's got its little face and we're ready to start closing up. So like I say, I'm leaving all of these tails because I'm literally just going to leave them on the inside, no one's going to see them. Get my hook again, and now we're going to start closing off. So it's really simple to close off. You're literally just going to insert your hook into that first stitch, find the corresponding stitch at the back and go through the whole of that stitch, and then you're going to yarn over and pull up and pull through. So you're just going to do a slip stitch, and then again into the next one. I'm getting the whole of the stitch, so I'm getting the V, go through the one at the back as well, again whole of the stitch and slip stitch, and so on and so forth. So you're just going to go through the top of each stitch, front and back, and then slip stitch. And once you get about 2/3 of the way across, we will stop and we will stuff. So I will meet you there in a second. There we go. So I'm about 2/3 of the way now, and I've just got this little pocket right here that I can start stuffing. So I'm just going to pull that loop out to keep it safe. And I don't want to overstuff it purely because we've used treble stitches, so there will be gaps. So if you overstuff, the gaps will become stretched and you'd see lots of the stuffing through it. So I'm just going to grab out a little bit. Like I say, I'm not going to need very much, but I'm just going to start stuffing. Make sure you go right to the corner. Like I say, you don't need a lot of stuffing, just enough so that the safety eyes don't poke out the other side if you give it a squish, basically. So you don't need lots. And like I say, you don't have to use proper stuffing. If you've got lots of ends of yarn that you've had sitting around or something, you can use that as stuffing. I'm going to pop in a little bit more on this end. I don't want too much because otherwise it gets all caught in the stitches as you do the end. So there we go, I'm quite happy with that now. So he's not massively fat. So yeah, there we go, happy with that now. And once you're happy with your level of stuffing, you can just continue to slip stitch along to close up. This last little bit is usually a little bit trickier purely because it's stuffed and it can just get a little bit fiddly. 2 more stitches to go, 1, and then your very final one. Slip stitch, chain 1, snip off, and pull that tight. And then this final end is really easy to deal with because we're literally just going to work it into the inside of your rainbow. Try and go through a bit of the stuffing and things, and then just bring it out through a red part. So pull it through. Like so, and then you can literally just pull it, snip it, and it'll just disappear back into the thing. So this is the back, and that is the front. You might just want to give it a little smush to get your stuffing equal, but you can see it just makes a difference when you do that final round. By adding in those extra stitches, it means it doesn't pull it backwards like that, which it can do. It means that it stays really nice and straight along that bottom edge. It really does make a difference for this rainbow. But that is it. They are my little rainbow buddies, and it's just as well I did this video because the kids were fighting over them, so they have now officially got one each, so hopefully no one is going to be arguing anymore. But I really hope that you've enjoyed this one, and please tag me on Instagram if you do make them. They're so quick and so sweet, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.